Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to continue our investigation of the quadratic formula. We're going to pick out a little more difficult concept now, a new thing that you need to recognize that this will only work if the equation is set equal to 0. Now notice in the previous notes, every equation I gave you was already set equal to 0. But it's something today I need you to keep in mind. I need you to be cognizant about. You need to make sure that your equation is set equal to 0. So, what I'm going to do is subtract that 2 over to be with everything else. To use a quadratic formula, we need everything on one side of the equation. But now that I've done that, now that I can see my a is 1, b is negative 3, but I'll notice c is negative 2 because I had to move the 2 over, I had to subtract it over to be with everything else. But now, once you get to this step, now it's exactly the same as what we've done previously. Now I just start plugging it into the quadratic formula. Negative b, well, the negative of negative 3 is a positive 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And I want to take all that gobbledygook in there and I want to get a single number under my radical. So I'm going to go to my trusty calculator. B squared minus 4 times A times C. And that is going to give me 17. So 17 is that magic number inside my radical. And then on the bottom, 2 times 1 is just going to be 2. All right, and this next one is the same deal. To use a quadratic formula, we need to get everything to one side. So I'm going to subtract that 3 over to be with everything else. So now that I set equal to 0, now I can see that my a is 2, b is 3, and my c is going to be a negative 3. From here, now I just start plugging things into the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And I want to clean up this mess inside my radical. So now I'm going to jump to my calculator and I'm going to plug all that in. B squared minus 4 times A times C. And that's going to give me 33. So 33 is the magic number that is going under my radical. So on the bottom, 2 times 2 gives me 4. And that is going to be how I can leave my answer. All right, so now that we've stepped through that, I do want to cover one more concept with you, okay? And again, this is just a little thing. You already know the skill, but now it's just bringing it together, kind of like we did when we were completing the square. So we want to remember to use quadratic formula, we need everything on one side. That's something that factoring and quadratic formula have in common. Because now I can label all of my terms, A, B, and C, And I'm going to start plugging them in. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So I have everything plugged in. Now I want to clean up that gobbledygook mess inside there. So jump to my calculator. B squared minus 4 times A times C. That's going to give me a 32 inside my square root. Now, we did this when we were completing the square as well. I wanted to remind you that when you can simplify radicals, that is my expectation that you do so. What I mean by that is there's a perfect square that divides 32. 32 is 16 times 2. All right, so don't forget, whenever you have these radicals, you should be thinking in the back of your minds, can this radical simplify? Is there anything I can pull out of it? Well, the square root of 16 is just 4. So you should simplify that radical. And now something even cooler happens. Notice both the negative 6 and the 4 are divisible by 2. So you can actually take this one step further and divide 2 out of both of those things. Now notice the radical isn't influenced. You can't change the radical, but the two coefficients get divided by that 2. So notice you can simplify that all the way down to this because you know how to simplify radicals. All right, so that is going to be the end of our notes for today. So thank you for joining me. Please make sure you have all of it written down, and as always, come and see me if you still have any questions.